Behind every glamorous smile lies a story the world rarely sees. George Clooney, Hollywood's most charming star, the man everyone envied, lived through a tragedy so severe it nearly destroyed him. From a near-fatal motorcycle accident to a hidden war with pain, depression, and the struggle to find meaning, this is the untold story of George Clooney's real-life tragedy. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe, like, and click the bell icon so you never miss our deep dives into the real stories of the world's most famous icons. In the early 2000s, George Clooney was everywhere. From Ocean's 11 to Syriana, from red carpets to magazine covers, he was the very definition of a Hollywood leading man. The world adored him. Women swooned over his looks and charm. Men admired his confidence and success. Directors called him one of the most talented actors of his generation. He had money, fame, friends, and seemingly the perfect life. But what no one knew was that Clooney was about to face a tragedy that would strip away the illusion of perfection. A tragedy that would test his very will to live. In 2005, while filming in New Jersey, Clooney was riding his motorcycle when disaster struck. He collided with a car and was thrown with brutal force. The impact was catastrophic. Clooney hit the pavement hard, his body twisting unnaturally. He fractured his spine, split his dura, the membrane surrounding the spinal cord, and was left in unimaginable pain. Doctors rushed him to the hospital. At first, he thought he would recover like any other injury, but soon it became clear this was no ordinary accident. The crash had left Clooney with long-term, life-altering damage, and it marked the beginning of a nightmare he would carry for years to come. On the surface, Clooney healed. The bruises faded, the fractures mended, and within months he was back in the public eye. But privately, he was in agony. The accident had left him with a leaking spinal fluid injury, causing constant, searing headaches. He described the pain as like having a steel spike driven into your head. Simple tasks like sitting, eating, or laughing became unbearable. To the cameras, he smiled. To the world, he was the same Clooney. But inside, he was living in torment. Every red carpet appearance was a performance. Every interview was a mask. Behind the charm, there were nights spent curled up in the dark, unable to sleep. Behind the jokes, there were days when even getting out of bed felt impossible. Clooney later confessed that the pain became so overwhelming, he thought about ending his life. In one heartbreaking moment of honesty, he admitted, "I thought I couldn't live like this. I thought, I can't exist in this kind of pain." Imagine that, one of the most admired men in the world, secretly wondering if life was worth living. For years, Clooney kept his suffering private. Hollywood demands perfection. Admitting weakness can mean the end of a career. So Clooney worked through the pain. He continued acting, starring in films like Michael Clayton and Up in the Air. Both roles explored loneliness and inner conflict, perhaps reflecting the battles Clooney was fighting inside. Every scene, every performance carried traces of his own suffering. Art imitated life, and while the world celebrated his brilliance, Clooney was waging a silent war with himself. The tabloids weren't kind. Instead of asking about his health, they obsessed over his bachelor lifestyle. Who was Clooney dating? Why wouldn't he marry? Would Hollywood's most eligible bachelor ever settle down? What no one saw was the truth. George Clooney wasn't avoiding marriage because he wanted to stay single. He was surviving, fighting his body, fighting his mind, fighting just to keep going. Pain changes you. It forces you to confront your mortality. It strips away vanity. For Clooney, the accident made him rethink everything: his career, his life, his purpose. And just when it seemed he might lose hope, fate introduced him to someone who would change everything. Her name was Amal Alamuddin. In 2013, George Clooney met Amal, a brilliant human rights lawyer. She wasn't impressed by Hollywood fame. She didn't care about red carpets. She cared about justice, humanity, and truth. For Clooney, it was magnetic. For the first time, he found someone who saw beyond the actor, beyond the charm, someone who truly understood the man. He later admitted, "I knew from the moment I met her that I wanted to spend the rest of my life with her." And in Amal, he found not only love, but healing. In 2014, George Clooney shocked the press by marrying Amal in a breathtaking Venice wedding. The world was stew. The eternal bachelor was no. Amal became his anchor, his confidant, his strength during the darkest nights. With her by his side, Clooney began to rebuild not only his life, but his hope. In 2017, at the age of 56, George Clooney became a father to twins, Alexander and Ella. For a man who had once claimed fatherhood wasn't for him, Clooney was overwhelmed. He called it the greatest joy of his life. Suddenly, the man who once doubted whether life was worth living had two new reasons to fight every single day. Fatherhood gave him hope. It gave him strength. It gave him love beyond measure. With Amal by his side, Clooney began using his fame for something greater than himself. Together, they launched the Clooney Foundation for Justice, fighting for human rights, refugees, and victims of war crimes. Hollywood's golden boy had become something more, a global advocate for justice. The same tragedy that nearly ended him had reshaped him into a man with deeper purpose. The truth, however, is that Clooney's pain never fully disappeared. Some days are good, some days are unbearable, but now he no longer suffers alone. Amal and his children are there, reminding him that life is worth enduring. As Clooney himself put it, "I still live with pain every day, but now I also live with love, and love makes the pain bearable." Today, George Clooney is more than just an actor. He is a survivor, a husband, a father, a humanitarian. His legacy isn't only about the films he made or the awards he won. It's about resilience, about turning tragedy into strength, about finding purpose after nearly losing everything. George Clooney's story reminds us that behind the smiles of even the most glamorous stars lies a battle we may never see. But it also shows us something greater, that even in tragedy, there can be triumph. That even in pain, there can be love. And that sometimes, the darkest moments of life lead us to the brightest ones. This was the untold tragedy of George Clooney's life. A story of pain, survival, love, and hope. If you found this story inspiring, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, give this video a like, and share it with others. Because sometimes the greatest stories aren't the ones we watch on screen, they're the ones lived in real life.